Welcome back. Good Thursday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Thursday, November 20th. It is 8 a.m. on the button on the East Coast, and I hope you're having a great Thursday morning. We've got a major media merger perhaps on the horizon. Tegna shareholders voting to adopt and accept Nexstar's Media Group's acquisition of its broadcasting license for over $6 billion. The application filed this week with the FCC to seek approval, waiving its 39% ownership cap rule for local television broadcasters. The transaction expected to close by the second half of 2026. Nexstar operates more than 200 stations across the country in 116 local markets, compared to Tegna's 64 stations in 51 markets. Joining me now is the chairman and CEO of Nexstar Media Group, Perry Sook. Perry, great to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria. Thank you very much for having me.
So what kind of DOJ scrutiny are you expecting here? I know you've had great luck with past deals, but I want to get your take on what we're expecting in terms of overlap, in terms of what you're expecting from the FCC on approval here. Do you expect DOJ scrutiny?
We will obviously comply with the DOJ requests and second requests. We've had DOJ second request letters in other transactions that we've done, and so we're respectful of the regulatory process, and we'll be working through that over the next weeks and months. I want to say first and foremost that, we couldn't even contemplate this deal under the previous administration. It's thanks to President Trump and his administration that is focused on eliminating unnecessary rules and unshackling businesses to compete in the current environment. And Chairman Carr at the FCC, who has said this is a break-glass moment for local television, and has moved to review and we hope eliminate the outdated rules that govern the size and scope of a company like Nexstar.
Oh, you're absolutely right. President Trump wants to deregulate the FCC. The agency is looking to streamline state and local broadband permits, accelerate deployment, and improve broadcast services across the country. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr talked about it just recently. Here's this. Watch.
Broadcast television is fundamentally different than other forms of communication, including cable news and podcasts and people that sit there on their soapbox. And what happens at the FCC is when you have a broadcast license, there's conditions, there's a public interest standard, which means you have to operate consistent with the public interest. But one of the things that we're trying to do as a general matter at the FCC is to empower local TV stations to serve the needs of the local communities. Again, you've got national programmers like Disney, like Comcast, like Paramount that aren't licensed by the FCC, that have no public interest obligation, and they provide a lot of the primetime shows that the licensed TV stations put out over the air. And what's happened over the years is that those national programmers have exerted more and more control and pressure on the local TV stations. So they don't feel like they can push back on the national programmers.
Perry, it's all good news for this deal, certainly. And you've talked about a lot of synergies between the companies. Talk us through that, because there's one analyst that I was reading earlier, and he says that the synergies go above and beyond the initial $300 million, which we suspect could prove light by as much as 50% or more. Your thoughts?
Well, we put our synergy number out based on the initial review of information that we exchanged with Tegna, and now we're into the second level of discovery phase, and we will fine-tune not only our revenue estimates, our cost estimates, our staffing needs, our opportunities to expand local news programming. That all comes as part of the second level of diligence. But obviously, in overlap markets, you only need one building, one set of folks to maintain that building. And you can still run separate newscasts. It's just the consolidation allows us to invest more in local journalism and maintain and keep that product on the air.
I love that. There's also a digital portfolio at Tegna that could be useful. What about that?
Well, there are things that Tegna does very well, and we're looking forward to taking the best of both companies and putting them together to build this strong new company. And I think that's important, Maria. We need strong companies that have the ability to scale and preserve local journalism, because, as you know, we face an existential threat from big tech, and in an era of disinformation and fake news, we at the local level, we believe, are anti-fake news. and maybe the last bastion of that, serving local communities. So you need big companies that have the ability to have the financial wherewithal to support local journalism and grow it over time. Otherwise, I fear we kind of go the way of the newspaper industry.
Absolutely. Great point. Perry, are you expecting to have to do any divestitures to have this go forward?
It's too soon to tell. As you said earlier, we just filed our FCC applications this week once the government reopened and the website was available. We've been working with the DOJ through their second request, and I would say conversations across the spectrum have been productive and constructive. And I think it's too soon to tell where the regulatory agencies will come out and what conversations we ultimately will have with them about the shape of the new company. But we're leaning in. We feel we're pushing on an open door here to remove and eliminate unnecessary and outdated regulations. And I will tell you, Maria, spending a lot of time in Washington, there's no one, when I explain the current regulatory schema for local television broadcasters, that says that those rules make sense. It's just now marshaling the forces to move forward to change those rules for the betterment and the preservation of local journalism and local voices in our communities.
Yes, we love all of that. I guess you've got some redundancy in terms of facilities as well. That should prove to have some upside in terms of cost efficiencies as well.
Well, exactly. You know, in Denver, both Tegna and Nexstar own a facility. We hopefully can consolidate into one and then ultimately sell the other. Here in Dallas, the local Tegna station has a very robust news department. We own a CW affiliate here that does no local news, so we'll be able to add local news to that television station post-closing in time periods where the ABC affiliate can't, which will add additional product to reach additional consumers and give them more choice in the local markets. And we've identified, I think, 9 or 10 markets across the country just preliminarily where we're going to be able to do that same thing. So it's all about is this merger in the public interest? And we believe not only in the near term, but in the long term that it is.
Well, I'll tell you, you had a wild day of stock trading when you reported earnings. I know you had a mixed third quarter earnings, but a lot of analysts were talking about how the stock was flat, then it went down, then it went up, all while you were doing your call. Revenue estimates in line at $1.2 billion. What can you tell us about the quarter and where growth comes from at Nexstar in the coming 5 years? Is it largely through acquisitions or is it organic?
Well, I think it's both. You mentioned earlier the digital attributes of Tegna. I think being able to overlay those across the combined Nexstar Tegna footprint, some of the sales disciplines and opportunities we've created within Nexstar can travel to the Tegna stations as well. So there is an organic growth component. There is the synergy component that you mentioned, and we see growth from expanding the amount of local news. And if you look at the acquisitions we've done to date, we've done about 40 of them over the almost 30 years since I founded the company. We've increased the amount of local news serving those communities by approximately 30% over what they were producing at the time of acquisition. So, that local news is what attracts advertisers and viewers in our communities, and it's a major source of revenue for the company. So that will be organic growth, but a byproduct of the acquisition.
That is a great point, Perry. Look, you made a decision to preempt Jimmy Kimmel after he said horrible things about Charlie Kirk. President Trump continues to slam Jimmy Kimmel. He did so again last night on Truth Social, calling out TV syndicates who run his show, asking, quote, why do they put up with it? What is your reaction, Perry?
Well, obviously, we in our local markets are there to air programming, in fact, required by FCC to serve the public interest. And, for example, we own the ABC affiliate in Salt Lake City that serves the entire state of Utah, where the assassination occurred. And we felt at the time that the remarks were insensitive and inaccurate. And we chose as a company to preempt the show for a period of time. And at the time we said, until things cool down. We have since restored the show to the air, but we are the licensee and the ultimate arbiter of what goes out over the air. And I think it was a perhaps a wake-up call to the coastal media, if you will, that we're just not going to be a dumb pipe and carry everything that's sent down. If we feel it offends the sensibilities of our viewers and our communities, then we'll take action. And
good for you.
Chairman
Yeah.
Carr just yesterday announced a initiative to review the relationship with local network affiliates and their networks, and I applaud him for raising the question.
Yeah, look, Perry, somebody's got to take a stand, right? And you did, and that's good. But let me get your take broadly before you go on the macro story, Perry, because advertising is obviously a great signal to look at when you're looking at growth. And I guess this last quarter, you're up against some tough comparisons when you look at the political advertising that you had last year for a political, with a presidential election. How would you assess advertising right now? How does the business look? And are you expecting a bump going into the midterms next year?
Well, we, by basis and benefit of our geography, Maria, operate in over 40 states, and most of the political battleground states and where the contested elections will be held in 2026. We generate a significant amount of political revenue in the even-numbered years, and if you look at an odd-even cycle as one cycle, so 23-24 versus 25-26, most estimates from analysts are that political revenue will be up about 20% over this 25-26 cycle, and we obviously expect to be the beneficiary of that. So it will be opportune for us because that will generate free cash flow that we can use to immediately reduce the debt outstanding and reduce our debt service at the close of the acquisition.
So the economy feels good to you, Perry?
You know, I think we are in an economy that, people have figured out how to deal, right? I think that, people have dealt with tariffs. I think the lower end socioeconomic is pressured by prices. I think the president is taking, is now focused on affordability. And we think a lot of the big, beautiful bill impact will actually be felt starting in 2026. So I'm paid to be an optimist, but I do feel good about the future of the economy. I think we have more tailwinds than headwinds as we turn the calendar to the new year.
All right. Well, congrats on this. We'll be watching how this all plays out, and we so appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it.
All right. Perry Sook joining us, founder and CEO at Nexstar. Special thanks to Caroline Downey for joining us this morning. Caroline, it's great to see you. We will see you soon. We'll be right back. We've got all hands on deck for the jobs numbers.